Okay, now for the moment of truth. Is this actually going to work? Let's see. Is that off? No, it is not. Now it is. That's off, that's off, that's off, that's on. Stream does appear to be live. Alright, let's do this before something else goes wrong. Hello! Shadowcat back! By some miracle. This is the first time I've ever really had a problem like this. I have no idea what was going on, but OBS was so screwed up. Literally nothing that I did. I did a full reboot, and that seems to have fixed it for now. I have no idea if it's going to stay fixed or not. So we're going to find out together. It's going to be exciting. But okay. Yes, we are back. It is time for Magic the Gathering again. I am very excited to be finishing up Artifacts. And I think I got everything going. Oh, wait, I don't have my avatar up. Okay, well, I guess we're not going to have it today because I don't have it set up and I'm not going back to set it up now. So it's just going to be the way it is. Okay, well, the last time we were here, we did a lot of work on Artifacts. We finished up, we mostly just did equipment, I think. Equipment and the incubators, because that was kind of easy. We did fortifications as well. We did fortifications, which is going to be really interesting because it's going to allow us to actually make a structure. We did the incubators. Those are going to be just actual creatures, which will then turn into other creatures, and it was good. And then after that, we need to get vehicles done, which is what we're here for today. And let's see. Checking the chat. I've got 2 people in the chat. Blizzard Star was here before everything, fell apart. But good to see you here, Blizz. JP is in the chat too. JP says plug. Okay, that's a good point. I really should be doing that. So, without further ado then, if you like what I do here and you want to see more of it, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon, that way you get notified every time these videos come out, even if they are late. If you know somebody else who's also into either tabletop games like Pathfinder or Magic the Gathering, then share this video with them, share the stream with them, because they might just enjoy it. Otherwise, though, if you like me, you like what I'm doing here, leave a like on the video, leave a comment down below. But if you're going to go through all the effort to leave a comment down below, might I suggest you just go ahead and join the Discord. We have a Discord. It's there. The link works. I'm 95% sure of that. So you can join us there. You can chat with us there. You can share things like memes. We love memes. Who doesn't love memes? Also, if you want to play with us, you have to join the Discord, because that's where we play. So join the Discord, come to the Behind the Screen channel, let me know what you want to play, and what your availability is, and there you go. You're good to play with us. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get into this. I'll see that Jeffrey is in the chat today. Hello, Jeffrey. It's good to see you. Jeffrey says, I am alive, and also happy birthday, JP. Well, I mean, there you go. Happy birthday, JP. I don't have anything for you, though. I don't have like cake or anything for you. But you know what? If you go and you get yourself a cake, just imagine that was from me. Alright, so let's go ahead and bring in everything we're going to need, and I hope all of this works. We're going to need to have our spreadsheet, of course, which apparently works. We're going to need to have our browser, which apparently also works. Thank goodness. I was worried that nothing else was going to work today, and it was going to be awful. Okay, so just as a bit of a refresher, like I said, last time we did fortifications and incubators. The fortifications, we went through how we were going to use those, and we tried to ground it in what Pathfinder does already, and we found something that's going to work really well for us, and it's called Secure Shelter. So, just as a quick little refresher, I'm going to come back and I'm going to find that again. So, I know it's an arcane spell. Secure Shelter. Secure Shelter says this. And we can get rid of the search bar. We don't need that anymore. It creates a humble little cottage. It's a sturdy cottage, or lodge made out of a material that is common in the area the spell is cast. The floor is level, clean, and dry. The lodging resembles a normal cottage with a sturdy door, 2 shuttered windows, and a small fireplace. The shelter must be heated as a normal dwelling, and extreme heat adversely affects it and its occupants. The dwelling does, however, provide considerable security otherwise. It is as strong as a normal stone building, regardless of the material. So it might look like it's wood, but it acts like it's stone. It resists flames and fire as if it were stone. It is impervious to normal missiles. That's bows, arrows, arrows, bolts, slings, things like that. But not if it's cast by siege engines or giants. The doors, shutters, and even chimney are secured against intrusion, the former of the two being with arcane lock, and the latter by an iron grate at the top. It's also protected by an alarm spell and an unseen servant. So, the fortifications that we can create do not have all those amenities, but it does contain everything that is important. Which is, it is as strong as a stone building, which is good because stone is actually really strong. It resists flames, as if it were made of stone, and it's impervious to missiles. That's all good. It does not contain the furnishings, it does not contain the other amenities. It is just a fortification, and again, because this is a summoning, just like anything else, it's not going to be around for very long. It'll be around for a few minutes. However, that is a few minutes in which you have really, really good protection, which I think actually kind of makes it even better than the fortifications are in Magic the Gathering, since all they really do is just make a land indestructible. It's not as good as you think. Still though, it's good to see it. I'm glad that we have it. As far as the incubators go, that is going to be a stat block. So if we come back here to creatures, we did an incubator. And we'll take a quick look at that. And incubators are essentially just eggs. That's all they really are. And then they hatch into little Phyrexian nightmares. So for us, we got the incubator. It's neutral. It's small. It doesn't have much in the way of an armor class because, well, it doesn't really have stats. It does have hit points per level, but it doesn't have anything else. It's just an egg. And then whatever the incubator says, it will get that much in strength and constitution when it does become a little Phyrexian horror. And so that pretty much covers everything that we were doing last time. And so now we're going to move on to vehicles, which I think is going to be really, really interesting because it's just going to be good. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a good time today. We're going to make vehicles. So, coming down here to vehicles, we'll take a look at the actual page for them. It says, vehicles an artifact type that was introduced in Kaladesh. It was also used in the Aether Revolt, and quickly returned in the Ixalan block and Dominaria. Afterwards, they became deciduous. Which I'm not even sure really what that means, because they show up in a lot of things. Anyway, though, vehicle cards have a special bronze and gray blocked card frame. They have a power toughness printed in a bronze colored box. However, vehicles do not have power or toughness unless they become creatures, which is, kind of the thing about them. We'll be able to summon them as a vehicle. However, in terms of the card game, they don't really do anything until they become creatures. In our game, they're just going to be a vehicle, and obviously a vehicle is not going to do anything unless it has somebody to do something with it. They do not become vehicles without being crewed, and they are only creatures on their controller's turn. Creatures with the pilot type have an ability that allows them to crew vehicles with a higher crew cost or buff vehicles crewed by them, which, is super cool. If the effect of turning your vehicle into an artifact creature doesn't specify its power and toughness, then the printed power and toughness on the vehicle are used. Other effects may turn a vehicle into an artifact creature, but specify its power and toughness. In that case, use the specified power and toughness. It's fine, we'll be able to simply work on this as the card says. History, I don't care, because we're just going to get into how the vehicles work, what they do, things of that nature. Notable vehicles. Let's just go ahead and pick something. I don't know. We'll try the Weatherlight. Take a look at this. Well, it's a nice picture of it, but I was actually kind of hoping we would see the card. Can we get that? Can I get the card? In-game references. I don't care. I just want to see the actual card for it. Okay, that's fine. It's fine. Because we can come over here. Let's go to an advanced search. Card type. Super type. Ah, here we go. Card type. Okay, maybe not. How about subtype? All the way down. Wait, maybe not all the way down. Are these not alphabetical? Nope, they're alphabetical enough. They're not perfectly alphabetical, but I mean, at least they're alphabetized by the first letter, mostly. Okay, vehicles. Show me vehicles. What is this? That looks awesome. An aerial surveyor. It is an artifact vehicle. So, can't really show off the picture, but it is really cool. Whenever it attacks, defending player controls more lands than you. Search your library for a basic land. It's fine. The important thing here is that we've got everything we need to look at. It does cost 2 plus white. That's fine. The cost doesn't really matter that much. What is important is it has flying, it has crew 2, and it is a 3/4. So, we're going to need to translate what does the 3/4 actually mean? In terms of like what we're doing? Because obviously if we make the vehicle a vehicle, it's going to be weird. So why don't we first, before we get too much into the actual cards, what if we look up vehicles in Pathfinder to see what exactly we need to translate them into? Now, this is one of those things that's not usually brought up a whole lot. Vehicles. Where would they be? Here they are, under variant rules. So, let's take a look. Let's see, and in the chat, Jeffrey says war rigs. It's funny you bring that up, because I actually did have a Pathfinder game where my players had a war rig, and it was absolutely amazing. They had met with a blacksmith, who was a legendary blacksmith. They had a carriage already, but they wanted to turn it into something better. They wanted to do things like mount weapons on it. What they ended up doing is they took 2 carriages and joined them together, and after that, they just knocked out the wall, so you had one big long carriage. They were able to deck out the interior of it with bunks and storage and even a workbench and kitchen. They put a roof deck on top of it with a ballista on the aft section and an actual honest-to-God small cannon on the front section. And it was an absolutely amazing centerpiece for the entire campaign. It was beautiful, and the players loved it. So I'm actually fully on board for war rigs. Oh, and I almost missed it. PC Unicorn is in the chat. Hello, PC Unicorn. Good to see you too. All right, so getting back to vehicles. Vehicle basics. Drivers. Drivers control the vehicles. A driver is a creature with an intelligence score of at least 3 who are physically able to manipulate the driving device and who is both within the driving space of the vehicle and actively manipulating the driving device. Anybody ever seen the Venture Brothers? Do you remember the nozzle? Do not look away from the nozzle. Please do not be afraid of the nozzle. The nozzle is moving into position. The nozzle is calibrating. The nozzle continues to calibrate. The nozzle has finished calibration. It's kind of the feeling that I get here reading this. Okay, anyway. Occupants, any creature that is riding, driving, serving as crew on, or provide, and that's kind of important, serving as crew on, or providing propulsion for a vehicle is considered its occupant. The facing, unlike characters, all vehicles are forward facing. It moves best when it moves the direction of its forward facing. In a lot of cases, it's the only way it can move. If it's something like a carriage, it cannot move sideways. Okay? We are not playing Baldur's Gate Candlekeep Drift. We're just not doing it. Alright, acceleration and deceleration. Vehicles must accelerate to reach their maximum speed each round with the proper driving action and a successful check. The driver can increase the vehicle's movement to its rate of acceleration. This is really simple. It's like what we saw when we did the vehicles in the Warhammer 40k module. You have a speed increment, and then you have a maximum speed. It's super simple. Initiative. It moves at the start of its driver's turn. The vehicle has no driver. It moves in the turn of the last creature that was the driver, or a turn determined by the GM. Controlling it, it's very simple. You're just... If it's like a carriage or a wagon or something... You decide what it's going to do. We can get into actions as well. Driving check. When the driver is takes a driving action, they must make a driving check to determine the maneuverability and speed of the vehicle that round. Its propulsion determines what skill is used for driving. A driver can always make a wisdom check in place of a driving check. The base DCs for it are 5 and 20. Use the lower DC if you're not in combat, and the higher DC if you are in combat. Let's see. JP said in the chat, let's do Death Race mod for war rigs. I kind of don't need to. Like, it's kind of already built in. It's not a matter of I would need to make a module, it's just that I would need to make a campaign for it. Because we can already do the war rigs. I mean, I've already proven that. We just need the vehicle rules, and I've got them. Then, you need to actually have a party together. You obviously need to have a party if you're going to play the game. And then just outfit your vehicle with weapons. Now, we might actually have to go through and make a little bit of modifications. Like, for example, I might need to institute a hardpoint system. Just so we can say, you know, how many things can you put on it? Like, for example, the carriage that I had in my previous campaign had a ballista and a small cannon on top. We could call those, we could call those heavy hardpoints because they only use mounted weapons. But if there's like arrow slits or things on the sides, we could say that there's hard points on the sides, which are the equivalent of like arrow slits, or like a mounted hand crossbow or something. And it would just be to make things easier. It's not adding anything to it. It's not taking anything away. It's just adding clarity. So we could do that. Anyway, in combat, vehicles, creatures used as propulsion, and crew members do not threaten any area around them, but their drivers and their non-crew occupants do. Vehicles can enter the space of objects and creatures smaller than themselves. Vehicles do not have attacks, but they can, and may be required to, make a vehicular bull rush, a vehicular overrun, or ramming combat maneuvers. So there are a whole bunch of rules here, but the important thing that we need to get right now is going to be, what does a stat block for a vehicle look like? And there is a lot of stuff here. We also need to look into, like, sizes. Like, for example, I'm going to come back here to this thing. This aerial surveyor thing, which is, again, super cool, and I love it. Looking at it, this thing is obviously crewed by one person, and, I mean, let me pull this down a little bit. Okay, there we go. This thing is just essentially an armor suit. So, the crew capacity is 1. But that may not fly necessarily with our rules unless we add a new category. So it says right here, vehicle squares and vehicle size. A large vehicle is 2 to 6 squares. Okay. We can go ahead and just assume that's a large vehicle. And 2 to 6 squares, you're talking about like a wagon. A wagon, maybe a large wagon, maybe a carriage. Pretty simple. A huge vehicle, 7 to 12 squares. A gargantuan vehicle, now we're talking things like boats. 13 to 20 squares, and anything larger than that is a colossal vehicle. You gotta figure. Remember that each square is a 5 foot by 5 foot square. So when we talk about 2 to 6 squares, let's go on the large side and say 6 squares. That would be 2 wide, probably, by 3 long. That means that you're talking about a wagon, essentially, that would be about 10 feet. And let's keep in mind, that's 10 feet for the entire vehicle, plus a little padding around the outside. So, 10 feet at the wheels. Maybe a little bit less. So maybe we call it like 9 feet, maybe even 8 feet, if we leave a foot on either side. So we can call it 8 feet long, or 8 feet wide, and then 3 squares long is 15. If we give ourselves the same padding, we could say that it would be about 13 feet long. So an 8 by 13 foot wagon, it's not huge. I mean, if you've ever been on a farm, that's kind of a small wagon. They get bigger. They get a lot bigger. Whereas down here at like the 13 to 20 squares, if we said 20 squares and we made that into a rectangle, we could say that was like 4 squares across by 5 long. That would be 20 foot across by 25 foot long. That's a decent sized boat. It's not a yacht or anything, but it's a decent sized boat. So this works. However, we could make a medium-sized vehicle and go one lower. If a large vehicle is 2 to 6 squares, we could say that a medium vehicle could be 1 to 2 squares. That would mean that a medium-sized vehicle would be a bike, essentially, or maybe just a horse. But even then, a horse is a large creature. I mean, if we go to our bestiary, I'm going to go by alphabet. We're going to come down here to H, horses. I just want a regular horse. An advanced horse? What even is an advanced horse? It appears to be a normal riding horse, but it has uncanny grace and a strength hint at exceptional ability. It doesn't matter. it's still just a large animal, which means that it occupies a 10-foot by 10-foot space. Yeah, space 10 foot. So if we were going to make a medium-sized vehicle, it would pretty much just be 5 foot. So 1 square. And that would fit well with this whole aerial surveyor thing. Now, interestingly, then we have to look at, like, what does the whole crew thing mean? As it says here, the whole driving check thing, where was it? Yeah, driving check. So the base DC for all driving checks are a DC 5 and a DC 20, with DC 5 being out of combat, DC 20 being in combat. We could use the whole crew thing, and we might have to go back and alter our definition here. But we could use the crew as a modifier for this. So, for example, the aerial surveyor here has a crew 2. We could use that as a +2 modifier, and say that using the aerial surveyor would be a DC 7 out of combat and a DC 22 in combat. Which, you know, is kind of a lot. But at the same time, maybe just don't use it in combat. Or make sure you have really good skills. Like, for example, the aerial surveyor also gives flying. Perhaps, in order to, or for you to use this thing, instead of using a wisdom save, or a wisdom check for it, you can use your fly skill. Fly is not exactly a common skill. However, I do believe that fly is common for all rangers and wizards, sorcerers, pretty much all your magic casters, really. So that could be an option. But I can always pick something else. Where is a different vehicle? RC. No, we can't do that. That's not right. Well, here's something. Everyone's talking about war rigs. What's this? The Apocalypse Runner. What is this even from? Set. It's from Aether Drift, which I believe PC Unicorn already mentioned. Yeah, PC Unicorn. Death Race was literally the Aether Drift set. So, there we go. The Apocalypse Runner. It's a 6/5 creature. It has crew 3, so again, if we just went with adding that as a modifier, then sure. I think this actually really works well. Okay. Here's something that I don't see, though. I do not see a stat block for vehicles, which means that we may need to make our own. Yeah, we may need to make our own. Okay, so if we're going to do this, then let's go ahead and start working on it. So I'm going to come over here to, let's see, that's keywords. I'm just going to come over here like this. We'll find some blank space over here. And we're going to go with a vehicle stat block. So what else are we going to need? Here's something. What if? Let me go ahead and hide this for just a moment. I'm going to go doing a web search here. And you never know what's going to come up there. Starfinder, vehicles, terrestrial vehicles. Okay, this should be good. We'll bring this back. So I am on the Archive of Nethys, and we are looking at vehicles. A vehicle stat block entry contains the following, or stat block contains the following entries: the name and level, the price, size and vehicle type, speed, the armor class, cover, HP, hardness, attacks, modifiers, systems, passengers, and special abilities. I think this is a good place for us to start. And then we can simply modify this as we go. So we're going to say name, level, price, size, type, speed, and here's where I think I'm going to make my first deviation, because it says right here, the speed entry lists its vehicle's drive speed followed by its full speed and then concludes with the speed in miles per hour for overland travel over the terrain type for which it was designed. If it does not list a movement type, the vehicle can move only on the ground. If the speed lists only swim, then it can only move underwater. Yeah. So, like, for example, this battle chariot. When we look at the speed, it is drawn, so okay, I guess whatever speed the vehicle or the thing is. Let's find something a little bit better. Motorcycle. That'll be good. Typical motorcycle. Alright, so the speed is 20 feet, the full speed is 500 feet, and the overland speed is 55 miles per hour. It must be a Harley. Now, it says here, it's the drive speed followed by the full speed and then conclude the speed in mile per hour. So I have to assume that this is the increment. So when we're talking about accelerating or decelerating, that's the amount that is going to change. So I'm going to go ahead and just say speed increment. And I'm going to say full. Well, I'm going to say speed full. And then speed overland. And again, this is going to be probably really determined by what it is, whether it's drawn or not. Although, as opposed to be fair, if you're summoning these, it's going to come with its own set of propulsion. If you summon a chariot with a horse, it's going to come with the horse, and thus the horse is essentially going to be a part of the vehicle. We have to remember that these are also going to be echoes, which means it's not a real horse, it's not a real chariot, it's just mana. It's mana made manifest. So there is a certain amount of fudging that we can do. Alright, next is going to be armor class. Right? Yes. We don't need the EAC and KAC because that's only Starfinder. Hit points. Hardness. I don't know if we're going to need that or not, but we may. Attacks. I'll leave some space for that one. Modifiers. I'll leave a little bit of space for that. And then I'm going to go ahead and say crew and passengers, because there may need to be a differentiation. All right. Oh, looks like JP's out of here. Well, JP, it was good having you while we did. Again, happy birthday. enjoy your birthday, and we'll see you later. We'll see you later. Take care. Okay, so getting back to vehicles. Drivers. That's something that we don't actually have in here. Now, it says here, drivers control the vehicles. A driver is a creature with the intelligence score. It does not say how many drivers are required, though. And I do think that's maybe important. But then again, maybe not. I'm trying to think of an instance where it would be... or where it would require multiple drivers. And the only thing that I can think of would be truly massive vessels. Which again is getting into things like starships and such, but where this is Pathfinder. Starships are not a thing here. The biggest things that we would have would be boats. Like great big galleons and things like that. And even then, a galleon only has a single helmsman. There is one person standing there at the wheel. There's a massive crew, don't get me wrong. You need a massive crew to operate the vessel, but there is still only one driver. So I don't think we need to put something in the stat for that. Now, occupants, we've already got that. Passengers, we've got that listed. Facing, unlike characters, they have a forward facing. Yes, acceleration and deceleration, we've already got that. The initiative. A vehicle moves at the start of its driver's turn. Yes, controlling the vehicle, driving check, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so propulsion and driving checks. Every vehicle has its own method. Propulsion. Creatures pull chariots and wagons. Boats and ships are propelled by water currents, wind, muscle, or all three. Fantastical airships are held aloft by a variety of propulsion sources, both magical and mundane. The method of propulsion typically affects the speed and maneuverability of the vehicle, but more importantly, the propulsion determines the required skill needed to control a vehicle. If it's alchemical, that's not something we really need to worry about. If it's done by current, well, could be air currents, could be water currents, something more exotic. Usually manipulating a current-propelled vehicle requires a skill like fly, knowledge nature, profession sailor, survival, or even acrobatics or knowledge arcana, depending on the nature or makeup of the vehicle. So here's the interesting thing. I think all we really need to do is just determine what check are we going to use, because all of these vehicles should be used the same, or at least mostly the same. The only reason that I'm going to make a differentiation is because perhaps, we want to make a differentiation between land vehicles, water vehicles, and air vehicles. And if that's going to be the case, well, I mean, then sure, there we go. Otherwise, though, magic, muscle... I don't think we need to worry about this. Like I said, we will just pick whichever fits best. So we'll go ahead and make a note. We'll make a note like right here. So propulsion. And I'm just going to say air, land, sea. If it's air, it's going to be a fly check. If it's land, what do we want to use if it's on the land? And PC Unicorn says the new set adds spaceships. Okay, yes, I realize that there is a new set coming out that does add spaceships, and yes, I want them. I want them bad. I want them really bad. However, I'm not instituting them into this module. That being said, it does open the door to a Starfinder version of the module with some slight modifications, because apparently now we're going to space. But I'm not dealing with that right now. I'm not dealing with it right now. If we end up with a spaceship in this game, it will be considered an air vehicle. And so, fly check. Land and sea. I think that what I'm going to do is, it's not just going to be, I think I'll allow an intelligence check for all of these. And so I don't need to really add that. For C, should I add some kind of swim check? I don't know. That doesn't seem quite right. It doesn't seem quite right. It does say here for vehicles propelled on currents, profession sailor, survival, maybe even acrobatics. Well, I can actually go ahead and I think I can say profession sailor works for the sea. Yeah, I think we can do that. We can do that. Which means that if we're going to go with the land, we can do profession driver. Because I don't think that there is an official profession pilot. Not in Pathfinder. Skills, profession. We'll take a quick look. And Blizzard Star has to leave. Well, it was good seeing you here, and I will hopefully see you next time. So until then, take care. Okay, so here it says that profession skills include architect, baker, barrister, brewer, butcher, clerk, cook, courtesan, driver, engineer, farmer, fisherman, gambler, gardener, herbalist, innkeeper, librarian, merchant, midwife, miller, miner, porter, sailor, scribe, shepherd, stable master, soldier, tanner, trapper, woodcutter. Pilot is not in here. Now, not to say that it couldn't be in here, because this is not an exhaustive list. It's just a list of common professions. But for now, I think I'll go ahead and use the fly check for anything that is flying. And so we've got that. We could even go ahead and insert that in here. Acceleration, deceleration, yeah, we've got that. Initiative is controlled by the player that's driving it, so we don't need that. One thing that we do need to add here, we are going to need to add a an adjustment. So crew DC is what I'm going to put in here. There we go. Because, again, when we look at the card, it's got a crew. That number is going to be added to the DC of the vehicle to control it. And so, yeah, we're going to need that. Now, as far as the speeds go, the increment, we're going to have to make a lot of assumptions here, because we only have so much information to go on. The card is only going to give us the following things. It has a mana cost. It has a mana cost, it has a crew cost, it has a power and a toughness. It has 4 numbers, just 4, that we are going to need to turn into an entire stat block. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. It's going to be tough, and I'm not sure how we're going to make it work. Now, one of the things that we did before, and I may be able to fall back on this, is when we go back to creatures. We said that the fly speed, if the creature has flying, is equal to the converted mana cost times 10. If we were to do this the same way, then we could go ahead and make the assumption that we can use the converted mana cost for our vehicles too. In which case, we could take this Apocalypse Runner, which costs 2 plus black red. It's a converted mana cost of 4. If that was the case, then we could make the speed, or in this case, I guess the speed increment. We could make the speed increment 40. So I want to kind of work on building this actually. So I'm going to say this is going to be the Apocalypse Runner. The level is going to have to be 4. I said 4. There we go. Because that's going to be the minimum level where you're going to be able to cast it. The price doesn't exist, so we can get rid of that entirely. Doesn't cost anything because you can't buy it. The size. Now, how are we going to determine the size of it? If we were going to go by what it says down here, the size for this thing would be 6 plus 5, which would be 11. Going back to creatures. The creature size is determined by the power and toughness. So 0 to 4 is going to be small, 5 to 8 is 11, 9 to 12 is going to be large. Okay. So by these numbers, it would be a large vehicle. But here's a slight problem, and we'll come back to this in a moment. I want to come back to the Aerial Surveyor. This is a 3/4. But the Aerial Surveyor clearly only holds 1 person because it's essentially just a battle suit. So this would have to be more like a medium thing. If that's true, well, 3 to 4 is going to be 7, which absolutely qualifies as a medium. Does this work? Does this like actually work? I'm not sure. Let's look at some other examples. And Sky is in the chat. Hello, Sky. Good to see you. We're making vehicles today. Or at least we're trying to. Okay, this Aethersphere Harvester. Not exactly sure what that is that I'm looking at, but it's a vehicle of some kind. The crew is 1. And it costs 8 to play. 8 is going to put it squarely in the medium area. So this thing that I'm looking at, whatever this thing is only going to have like 1 person on it. Does this thing only occupy a 5x5 square? I'm not sure. I don't know what this thing is. But it does seem somewhat appropriate. The Adrastea. This is a boat, clearly. Looks a little bit like a Viking longboat. For 3, which means it's 7, that makes this thing medium, which means that it would only really hold one person. At the same time, though, like, how big can these vehicles get? And do we need to adjust our sizes? Like, what is the biggest... the biggest vehicle we can find? Let's go ahead and sort it by mana cost. And then I want to go all the way to the end. All the way to the end. I want to see the most expensive vehicles that are in here. Because those should be some of the strongest, right? Unfortunately, some of these are very, very obviously going to be from the Warhammer series, like a Reaver Titan. That's Warhammer. But it is a 1010 vehicle. It's not applicable in our game, but it is there. The same thing for the Necron Monolith. But what else can we get? Here's like the most expensive one. The Parhelion 2. What set is this? Kamigawa the Neon Dynasty. This is a 5/5. 5/5 would be 10. 10 makes it large. And it says the crew is 4. So if we're just going to go ahead and assume that means that this thing is just that much harder to control because it's bigger, then okay. That means that trying to crew this thing out of combat would be a DC 9. In combat would be a DC 24. However, you can't even summon it to your level 8, so that might not be a huge problem. Valor's flagship. It's mythic, which means that you're not getting one, but it is 14 combined. 14 combined puts it squarely in the huge area. Again, it looks a lot bigger in the pictures, but okay. Perhaps I can even make an argument here. Remember how we were talking about stats and how these summoned goblins are so much weaker than regular goblins are? To the scale of about, 1/3 or 1/4 of what an actual goblin was. These could also similarly be 1/3 or 1/4 of the size and power of the actual ships. Because you are creating just an echo of them. If we assumed that, then having a ship that only really seats 1 or 2 people may be more understandable. But okay, we're going to go back to the Apocalypse Runner. We're going to continue working on this. As for the size, it does cost 11, which does put it into the large area. What if, this is going to be a little bit weird, but what if we made the size dependent also on the mana cost? So, a horse would be a large creature. A horse obviously doesn't take up an entire 10-foot by 10-foot cube, but still, it's 10 foot by 10 foot. What if we were able to make it so... I need to think about how we're going to do this. I was thinking that we could use rules similar to what we did for, like, walls, where the wall is a certain number of 10-foot cubes that you can then arrange, and it's based on the mana cost of the card. So if you've got a wall, and I should have the example up here still. Yeah, it's still down here. Let me zoom out a little bit. If we have a wall, and this wall obviously cost us 6, Yeah, 1, 2, 3, no, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have the wall. We can then arrange these blocks in whatever configuration we want, and the wall itself passes through the middle of all of these squares. What if we were to do something similar to this war rig? With just a simple understanding that it has to be in a certain configuration? Like, for example, over here we had done the fortifications, and we just said that the fortification would be, according to the rules, the cottage is a 20-foot by 20-foot floor for the cottage. We use that for the fortifications. And so, what if, like, say for the war rig, we did the same thing? And we just said that it costs 4, so it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. And that could be the war rig. Now, I'm not sure what token we would get to do this, but if it's a large vehicle like that, then we can do that. It could be an option. It also means, though, that if we got into like some of these other ones, like the really expensive ones, that one that costs 8, well, 8 would be the size of this right here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's a pretty big vehicle. Does that actually kind of fit with what we were talking about, though? So this would be 4 by 8. 4 times 8 is 32 squares. That actually... Let's see, vehicle size? Yeah, here we go. 32 squares falls solidly into the colossal vehicle. And if we kept this up, the war rig, if it was 10 by 10 squares, that'd be 16, which would put it into a gargantuan vehicle. Other smaller ones, like say the Aether Blade, or not Aether Blade, the Aether Aerial Surveyor, that one. That one costs 3, so this thing would occupy that much space? Oh, I have no idea. No, never mind. That's not going to work. Nope, that's not going to work out well. Now, there may be some room where we have to just use like a GM fiat here. Unless... What if we were able to use the crew? No, that's not going to work either, because then the aerial surveyor would need 2, or would be able to carry 2 people. And it very clearly can't do that. This is going to be tough. It's going to be tough trying to make a standardized system for these rules. Simply because things like this aerial surveyor exist. Okay, how about this then? How about this? Size right now, we're going to skip over. Size right now is going to have to be GM ruling. Okay, the type. Now, when we're talking about the vehicles over here, size and type, it's talking about, is it a land vehicle, water vehicle, atmospheric? In this case, for the Apocalypse Runner, this is going to be a land vehicle. And the crew DC is going to be a... What was it for the Apocalypse Runner? It's crew 3, so it's going to be a +3. Now, speed increment, speed full, and speed over land. Obviously, the speed increment... Well, actually, let's think about this. Let's think hard about this. fly speed. That was how far you could move in one turn. So the speed increment is going to have to equal that. So the speed increment is going to have to be 40 feet. And let me just expand this so we can actually see everything. Now, speed full. Let's think about this. Speed full. If we look at something like the motorcycle over here, the motorcycle over here has a speed increment of 20 feet and a full speed of 500 feet, which comes out to roughly 55 miles an hour on land. As a matter of fact, if we look at speeds, there is a pretty much direct correlation between speed per round and miles per hour. For example, most medium-sized creatures can move 30 feet per round. Standard. If you're a small character, sometimes it goes down to 20. Armor can affect that, but in general, 30 feet per round is the average. And what does that translate to? Well, 30 feet per round is 3 miles per hour. Essentially, you're just dropping the 0, and that's your miles per hour. And it works out really well that way. So, for this thing, technically, it says here that the full speed is 500. That means that the miles per hour should be about 50. They upped it just a little bit. And PC Unicorn says, in the Aether Drift set, there's an actual mechanic called max speed. Not sure if that's a factor helpful or not. I have no idea, but I can look. So I'm going to come over here and just say max speed. No, it's not a card. But then again, you did say it was a mechanic. Then let's try here. Max speed. Well, here's speed in general. Speed is a trait that players can have. It was introduced in Aether Drift and associated with the Start Your Engines mechanic. For the first time in the game you control a permanent with Start Your Engines, your speed becomes 1. This happens immediately, so nobody can respond and try to remove the permanent before you pick up speed. Once your speed is 1 or greater, you can trigger an ability to increase your speed. This ability is whenever 1 or more opponents lose life during your turn. If your speed is less than 4, increase your speed by 1. This ability triggers only once per turn. It is not tied to any permanent for the rest of the game. It can be triggered as long as your speed is less than 4, no matter what permanents you control. Max speed. Once your speed is 4, you have achieved max speed, and your speed can't go any higher. Some cards have abilities that care if you have max speed. These abilities are noted with max speed, followed by the ability. This means as long as you have max speed, meaning your speed is 4, it has the stated ability. Okay, I don't think that this is helpful yet. It may be something that is important later, though. It may be something that's important later. When I look at the Apocalypse Runner, actually, now that I think about it, no, that is important now. That is actually very important, and I think that I can use that at this exact moment. If 40 is the speed increment, and max speed is 4 ticks, we can use that for calculating the maximum speed of these vehicles. So, let's go back to this. If the speed increment is 40, based upon the mana value, and maximum speed per the rules in Aether Drift is 4 tiers, we can simply do the multiplication here. And we can say that this Apocalypse Runner, our full speed, 160 feet. That is going to be full speed in combat. And overland speed, again, if we just remove the 0, that would make it 16 miles per hour. Which, you know, is not much, but at the same time, it's okay. It's fine. I mean, how does that compare to other things? Well, let's go back to our horses. And I'm not even going to look at the advanced horse. I just want like a regular horse. We'll go with a light riding horse. Horse, light, yes, thank you, there. CR1, it is a large animal. Speed is 50. Now, that speed is 50 per turn. So if we wanted to convert that into how fast does this horse move over land, well, if 30 feet per turn is roughly 3 miles an hour, 50 feet per turn is a 5 mile per hour walking speed. It's better than you walking, plus you get to ride on it. Which means that if we look at this, this war runner, this Apocalypse Runner, 16 miles an hour, not very fast. However, it's a lot faster than you're moving. It's faster than any horse on the field. It's a lot. We also have to keep in mind that these things are only going to last for 1 minute per level. So if you summon the Apocalypse Runner here, it's only going to last for 4 minutes. You're not traveling overland with this thing anyway. It's just not happening. Armor class. This is actually going to be really easy because it's actually listed. Kinda, sorta. Well, actually it's not. The armor class is going to be, I think, basically just... It's going to be 10 plus, I think, whoever's driving it. And is that going to be accurate? Let's take a look. I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to look for armor class. Driving devices. Attacks against vehicles. A vehicle is a base armor class based on its size and other defenses it has. To calculate its actual AC, add the current driver's driving skill modifier or wisdom modifier, if that's the ability they're using, to the vehicle's base AC. Touch attacks against it ignore the driving skill or modifier, thus its base AC is its touch AC. And they don't actually list armor classes. No, wait, yes they do, right here. Vehicle armor classes and combat maneuvers by size. Large vehicles are a 9, huge is an 8, gargantuan is a 6, colossal is a 2. Okay, well, that's actually really, really useful. And if we determine what the size is, since that's by GM ruling, the armor class is going to be very fluid. So I'm just going to have to say GM ruling here too. Hit points, however, it's an echo. And so the hit points are going to be the same as any other echo. This one is going to be 1d8 for every 2 levels, plus 1, and this is because of their it's because they do actually have a toughness. It's going to be +1 times... Okay, actually, this is going to be a little bit difficult. 1 times, and it's going to be their toughness divided by 2. Because you only get 1 additional Constitution bonus for every 2 points you have in Constitution, so it's going to be their toughness divided by 2, and then multiply that by 1. In fact, I don't even really need this. So toughness divided by 2, round that down. Oh, but this does have to be per level. So it's going to be, so yeah, it's going to be level times toughness divided by 2. Yes, we're getting into Pokemon levels of math here. No, I don't like it, but it is what it has to be. Now, vehicle hardness. This is going to depend largely on what it is, because vehicle hit points per material. Like if it's leather, it has no hardness, it only gets 10 hit points. Our hit points are determined by the level of the actual thing. So what I think we're going to do is the hardness is going to be the toughness of the card. So when we look at this Apocalypse Runner, it has 5 toughness. That will give it a hardness of 5. Meaning that if you attack it, the first 5 hit points do not count. You have to get 6 or higher to do any actual damage to it, which will make it incredibly valuable. Even some other things, like this aerial surveyor, it has a toughness of 4. Which means that wearing this thing would give you a toughness of 4. And then attacks. So this is going to be a little bit more complicated. Damaging a vehicle, yes, we don't need to worry about that. What I am worried about, though, is going to be vehicle attacks. So let's take a look. Vehicles in combat. Initiative is equal to the driver's initiative. Movement, we understand. Threatening. Vehicles cannot threaten things. Line of sight and cover. Vehicles typically grant their occupants partial cover. A +2 to AC and a +1 on reflex saving throws against those outside the vehicles, and it may even grant partial cover against opponents within the vehicle as well. So that's cool. Jumping on and off, we have rules for that. That's cool. Taking control of a vehicle, attacks against a vehicle, but I want to see attacking with a vehicle. So I guess we're going to have to go down here to combat maneuvers. Vehicles typically do not have attacks, although some can be fitted with siege weapons. Vehicles can make, and is often required to make, a vehicular bull rush, vehicular overrun, or ramming maneuver as part of its movement. Unlike creatures, a vehicle can enter the space of creatures or are just smaller than it, and when it does, it makes either an overrun or a bull rush. When a vehicle hits a creature or vehicle that is a size larger, or if it hits a solid object, it makes a ramming maneuver. So, for a vehicular overrun, anytime the vehicle enters a space of a creature or vehicle that is smaller, the driver must make a vehicular overrun maneuver against that creature or vehicle. This may require the driver to make a vehicular overrun checks against the same creature numerous times as new parts of the vehicle enter its square. When performing the overrun, use the base combat maneuver for the vehicle plus your driving skill modifier. Now, what about damage though? When a vehicular overrun is attempted, if the target of the overrun may choose to avoid the vehicle, allowing it to pass through its space without requiring the overrun maneuver check. If the creature or vehicle cannot avoid the maneuver check, if the driver has the improved overrun feat, or if the vehicle is 2 or more size categories larger, then the target creature is or if the target feature is confused, dazed, entangled, flat-footed, helpless, paralyzed, prone, or stunned, you do not avoid it. In general, there's lots of reasons why you don't avoid it. The target of the overrun takes the vehicle's ramming damage. See table ramming damage by size. Where is that at? I don't know. Let's click on the link. Ah, here we go. Ramming damage by size. If it's a large vehicle, it's 1d8. Huge vehicle, 2d8. Gargantuan is 4d8. And colossal is 8d8. Okay, and it's on the same page. I just didn't see where it was. Okay, so in that case, how are we going to do this? My immediate assumption here is we're going to have to use the power, obviously. It's just a matter of how many times. If this was a spell, this would be really simple. It would do 4, because that's the mana cost, 4d6 damage. Okay, and that's fine. Except for one thing. That is kind of insane. That is a huge amount of damage. And if we get into other vehicles, like, where was that one? What was that really expensive one? The Vizier's Grand Ship or something like that. I'm gonna go to the end, because I'm pretty sure it started with a V anyway. Didn't it? Yep, there it is. Valor's Flagship. Valor's Flagship. Now, to be fair, and let's go ahead and be absolutely fair. Number one, it is mythic, so you're not getting this thing. It costs 7 to play. So you're going to have to be level 7 already. With a power of 7, that means this thing would be doing 7d7 damage. Which is insane. Like, seriously insane damage. It is mythic rare, so yeah, it's not a huge problem. But it could be an issue. The alternate, though. Okay, the alternative is that we treat them like creatures. Now, creatures do not deal damage based on their mana cost. They deal 1, and then it's D whatever their power is, which is why a Raging Goblin, if we come back here to the creatures, a Raging Goblin only does 1d1 damage. Because it only has 1 power. When we look at things like the Aven Fate Shaper, because I did that one, it's a 4/5 creature, which means that it does 1d4, and then because the power also sets its strength, and its strength is 14, a +2. Which is super simple. We could do the same thing for this Apocalypse Runner. We could simply say that, we come here to artifacts, its attacks are going to do, and I guess we can swap out attacks with ramming. And we could just say that it does 1d6. That's 1f6. There we go. Because that is the only number that these vehicles are given. It just says large vehicle 1d8, huge vehicle 2d8, and so on and so forth. If you overrun something, then that's what you're going to get. I'm going to go ahead and assume that the Bull Rush is going to do more or less the same thing. A vehicular Bull Rush is a swift action taken when the driver completes all but the uncontrolled action while driving a vehicle. They can choose to substitute all or some other vehicle overruns to Bull Rush maneuvers until the end of its movement that turn. The Bull Rush pushes a creature or vehicle away without doing harm if the driver does not have the improved Bull Rush feat. Initiating a Bull Rush provokes an attack of opportunity from the creature being Bull Rush with a vehicle. If it is successful, then you can push them 5 feet away from the vehicle. If you succeed with the check by 5 or more, you can deal the ramming damage as well. So yeah, basically just plowing things out of the way. And then of course there is just plain ramming, which, as PC Unicorn says, give me ramming speed. The sound of sheet being thrown into the boiler. What is wrong with you? Why would you do that? Alright, so, that seems to work. So ramming is going to be that. Modifiers. I don't think these are going to come with any kind of modifiers. I can't imagine any modifiers. So we may skip that. As far as crew and passengers go, though, this is something we can actually pull from the card. It already says crew 3. Now, we may only need 1 driver, but we can take 3 crew. Now, does that actually matter for us? I'm going to go ahead and search for crew. So, in combat, vehicles, creatures use propulsion, and crew members do not threaten the area around them, but their drivers and non-crew occupants do. So crew, I guess, means that you are actually working on the vehicle and you are a part of it. Now let's see. Occupants. Obviously you have a driver. Drivers, riders, and any crew, creatures that serve as propulsion to the vehicle are all considered occupants, and are all occupants except for the crew members and creatures used for propulsions can take actions and threaten areas as regular creatures. Crew members can take no actions and nor threaten areas. Their actions and concentration are all consumed by the act of providing propulsion and upkeep for the vehicle. Okay, here's where I think that we can actually do something interesting. I don't think we need a crew. I think we can delete this. No more crew. The only crew that you're going to need is going to be the driver, regardless of what it is. Because it's not a real vehicle, it is just an echo. Which means that the passengers on it could be equal to the crew -1. And I want to try that. I want to say that the passengers are going to be equal to the crew -1. In that case, our war rig here, this Apocalypse Runner, which has a crew of 3, would then be able to carry 2 passengers. We can move this up. This can be deleted. And so let's take a look at what we've got here. So Apocalypse Runner, the level is 4. The size is going to be based on the GM's ruling. It's a land vehicle. The crew DC is I just call this a What should I call it? A control DC? A drive DC? I guess I'll call it a driving check. Or a driving DC. Driving modifier. We'll call it that. It's going to be a +3 based on the crew number. The speed, of course, is going to be 40 feet. That is determined by the mana, or the converted mana cost. And I can just put that up here. We'll say CMC, that's converted mana cost. And that's not my acronym, they actually use that. Speed full is going to be... I'm just going to put ×4. And then the overland speed is just going to be that number minus the 0. The armor class is going to be down to the GM ruling because it'll have to be based on the size of it. Hit points, 1d8 for every 2 levels, plus the level times half of their toughness, which is good. The hardness is equal to the toughness, which I can put down here. There we go. Toughness, which in this case is going to be 5. The ramming is 1d6. Number of passengers it can carry is going to be 2. As for hit points, let me go ahead and copy this over here, just so I don't forget it, because I'm actually going to go ahead and fill this in. So 1d8 for every 2 levels, that's going to be 2d8s. And we can even come over here and do this. And then it's going to be plus 4 times, let's see, it has 5 toughness, so divided by 2 is going to be 2.5, round down is going to be 2, so plus 4 times 2. Roll the dice, and it's got 20 hit points. Yeah, 7 plus 5 is 12, plus 8, 20 hit points. So 20 hit points, a hardness of 5, does 1d6, number of passengers. Cool, I like it. Let's test it again. And let's pick a different vehicle. What do we want to do? Somebody suggest to me a vehicle, if you want. I'll look through these a little bit, just to give anyone a chance to chime in if they want to. But somebody go ahead and suggest a vehicle. Well, there's a lot of these vehicles, aren't there? Cloudspire Skycycle? Cool. Flying motorcycle. The Ghost Arc. That's from Warhammer. The Getaway Car. What's that from? That's from the Streets of New Capenna set. Interesting. There's a Goliath truck over here. This is also from, or this is from Warhammer. Okay. I'm not familiar with that truck. These are actually really cool. What is this thing? The Hedge Shredder. It's a mechanical hedge shredder thing. Cool. When it comes into play, you may mill 2 cards. Whenever one or more land cards are put in your graveyard, put them onto the battlefield tapped. PC Unicorn says, I rarely use vehicles, so can't think of one off the top of my head. I mean, that's fair. But hey, since I've already got it up, let's go ahead and do the head shredder. Why not? It's weird. So, let me scroll down a little bit here. So, hedge shredder. It costs 4 to play, so it's going to be a level 4. The size, I don't know off the top of my head. Type, clearly it's a land. The driving modifier. This thing is crew 1, so it's not exactly difficult to use. It's a +1. The speed increment, it costs 4, so really I can just copy this from up here. So we can do that again. The armor class. This is a 5/5 vehicle. So again, I can't really do the armor class because I just can't. Wait, don't do that. I can't really do the armor class. Hit points though. It's actually because the it has the same toughness as the Apocalypse Runner did. It's the same dice roll. So I roll the dice, I got a 17. 17. The hardness is going to be 5. As for ramming, though, it is only a 5/5, and so ramming is going to do 1d5. And the passengers, interestingly, because of this thing, it is a crew of 1. So, when we look at passengers, it is the crew -1. This thing does not carry any passengers on it. Now, something interesting, when we're looking at size, we look at the size of these things. We could institute a standard size, I think. And the standard size would not have to change the number of passengers that it can take because the passengers are determined by the crew. So I want to look back at the size again. What if we based the size not on the power and toughness, but instead on the mana cost? What if we did that? So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say size. And I'm going to say mana... actually, converted mana cost, I'm just going to abbreviate it, and then actual size. But does this work? Because even if I do this, again, I go back to that flying suit. That costs 3. So if I go ahead and say that, you know, it's like 1 square per converted mana cost, where does that leave me on the, where does that leave me on the other thing? No, it's not going to work. This is one of those things that just cannot be boiled down. It's going to have to come down to an individual ruling every single time. So if I look at something like the Apocalypse Runner and I had to make a ruling, the Apocalypse Runner is a big truck. Okay? And because of that, what if I were to come over here to these terrestrial vehicles in Starfinder? And I look at trucks. What kind of truck? Can we find a truck? There's a police cruiser. There's a hover truck. So the tires of this versatile truck transform into anti-grav jets at the touch of a button. It's just a regular truck. How big is it? Well, it says it's a gargantuan land and water vehicle, but it's only 10 feet wide, 30 feet long, and 12 feet high. It is not a huge truck. I mean, it's pretty big. Don't get me wrong. 30 feet is going to be 6 squares long. It's pretty big, but that's not bad. 6 feet or 6 squares long by 10 or 2 squares wide is only 12. If we went back to the vehicles tab over here, and 12, 12, 12, here we go, 12 squares. That's only a huge vehicle according to these rules. I just don't see a standard way to do this. It's not. So then I'll have to make up the rules. The Apocalypse Runner. The number of people that it can carry. I mean, maybe that's a way we should do it. What if we use the actual crew for the size? What if we were to say, and I'm spitballing here. What if we were to say that the number of crew that it can carry is, or the space of it is equal to the number of crew that it can carry, and it's the crew times 2? So what would that mean? What would that mean? That would mean that this this Apocalypse Runner would be 6 squares because it has a crew of 3. Which means that if we come back here, our Apocalypse Runner would be like this big. That's enough room for a driver and a passenger and another passenger. Or I guess since they're pointing down, he can be the driver, passenger, and passenger. That's pretty good. But then we come down to, again, that weird case of the flying suit. And maybe, you know what, maybe I should ignore that flying suit. Maybe that should be the weird exception. Because there will always be exceptions. If we ignore this thing and just say, forget it, it doesn't matter, it's not in there, who cares? We've got a boat over here. This boat has a crew of 1. And if we take our rules as written, that means with a crew of 1, it's a 10-foot boat. Okay, it's a rowboat. I mean, sure, you can put a sail on a rowboat, but when we look at this thing, if that's the actual boat, and yeah, there is a person on there, and you can see how big it is, the actual Echo is a rowboat. It kind of works. The Adventurer's airship, it's a flying ship. It has crew of 2. It means it would occupy a 10-foot by 10-foot area. One of the interesting things that I think this does is not only if we were to make the size equal to the crew times 2, it helps to scale them. It always scales to who's going to be using it. And it still gives room to move around. Like, even with this one with a crew of 2, if the actual airship, or at least the lander that you can walk on, is 10 by 10, for 2 people, it's enough room for you to move. I think that works. I think that actually works really well. Now again, the aerial surveyor is weird. I'm going to ignore that for now. If I look at this one, this Aetherwing Golden Scale flagship, flying crew of 1. So yeah, this is an airship, and despite it having like these giant wings on it, it only has working space of 10 feet. Or rather 10 feet by 5 feet. This air response unit has a crew of 1, so same thing. I think this is going to be a good rule. The Arcata Express, looks like a train, has a crew of 4. So if this is a train, and you're talking about a train car, you're talking about a train car that would be, say, 10 feet across by 20 feet long. It's a very small train car, but it's not unreasonable. I think that works. Okay, that's what we're going to do. Size is going to be crew times 2 squares. So we'll do that. That means that the size of this thing, and I'm going to go ahead and say this is going to be size in squares. If the size in squares is going to be the crew times 2, then this thing is going to be 6. And down here, this size is going to be 2. Now, how do we determine what is going to be a large vehicle, what is a small vehicle, etc.? Because that affects the that is going to affect the armor class. Unless we tie the armor class also directly into the unless we tie the armor class directly into the crew as well. But that's going to be a little bit harder, because I can't just simply do a multiplication, because the armor class goes down the larger the crew or the size of the vehicle gets. And without knowing what the highest crew is, that's going to be a little bit harder. But what I can do, I think, is going to be this. Armor class. Crew AC. Base AC. And this should be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Because 4 is the highest I've seen so far. And the base AC, I think, is just going to be 10, 9, 8, 7, and 6. It seems simplistic, but I think it's going to work. Especially once you add in things like the armor class. So if we take in this Arad Aura Express, this thing has a crew of 4. It is a big vehicle. It's also an 8.6 though, and since the power and toughness of these vehicles tends to go up the higher the crew is, it's going to be a base AC of 6. However, then you get to add in the relevant skill of whoever's driving it, which could push it up, probably will. Even if they're just using their wisdom check, that could be anywhere from a +1 to a +4. If it's a +4, then, congratulations, your AC is back up to 10. Which means, it's better than a 50% chance that they hit your vehicle, but still. And then, because this is an 8.6 creature now, or an 8.6 vehicle, it's got a hardness of 6. You need to do 7 damage to it before you can even really harm it. So I think it's going to even out. I'm going to put up here wisdom or... And I think that'll do it for vehicles. I think this is going to work out really, really well. I'm going to do one more, I think. As for the armor class, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use a trick that I have. For the armor class, for the rig, I'm going to go ahead and say the driver's bonus is going to be 4. I'm going to assume they have 4 ranks in whatever skill they're using. Plus 1d4 to randomize how good their associated skill is. And so, since they have a really crappy skill, apparently, the bonus they're going to get is only going to be 5. Which means that since this thing has a crew of 3, the base AC is going to be 7 plus 5. It's going to be 12. Armor class of 12. This head shredder, we're going to do the same thing over here. Use the same roll because it's the same level. They have a much better skill, 16, 17, so it's going to be a plus 7. It only has 1, so it's going to be 9. 9 plus 7, it's going to be an armor class of 16. With 17 hit points and a hardness of 5. But let's do one more. One more, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to get out of here. This is going to be that Ara Express. So Ara Express. It is a level 5 creature. The size. This thing requires a crew of 4, so it's going to be 8 squares. The type, it's a land vehicle. The driving modifier, because it is crew 4, is going to be plus 4. The speed increment is going to be 50. Full speed, because times 4, is going to be 200 feet. The overland speed is going to be 20 miles per hour. The armor class. So that's going to be a base of 6 plus, and I'm going to go back here to my trick. It's going to be 5 plus 1d4. They have a decent associated skill, so it's going to be a plus 7. So when we come back to it, it's going to be armor class 6 plus 7 is 13. Hit points. At level 5, it's still only going to be a 2d8. And let's see. It does have a 6 toughness. Divide that by 2. That's going to be 3. 5 times 3 is going to be 15, so plus 15. Roll it. 20. 20 hit points. With a toughness of 6. The ramming is going to be 1d8. And passenger is going to be crew minus 1 for the driver. That's going to be 3. Scroll that down a little bit. And so there we go. We now have a stat block for our vehicle. It'll last for 5 minutes because, that's the minimum level that or the minimum amount of time it can have, since it's a level 5 summon. It'll be able to hold 3 additional people on it, and they'll be able to make attacks or do whatever it is that they need to actually do. It will last for 5 minutes. It'll need 1 turn to accelerate, which means in 4 turns this thing can be going 200 feet per turn, or 20 miles an hour. At 20 miles an hour times 5 minutes, I don't actually know how far that would be, but it would be pretty far. I would have to do some more complicated math than I'm willing to do in my head. But there we go. That's vehicles, and I like it. I think that if you are in the middle of combat, and you have a vehicle spell like this, and you decide to bust it out, I think it's good. The only thing that I do wonder about is maneuverability. Propulsion and driving checks. Typically the thing affects maneuvering. Here we go. Maneuvering a vehicle. The wagon in this diagram may move in any forward direction if it succeeds or fails a driving check. The driver accelerates, decelerates, keeps going, or turns. It must move in a direction if it is, or move in this direction if it is uncontrolled. The wagon may continue to move forward, either diagonally, either left or right, if the driver succeeds in accelerate or keep going, or if the driver succeeds or fails at the decelerate or turn check. It cannot move forward diagonally if it fails to accelerate or keep going. Turning a vehicle, though. The wagon in this diagram is performing a left turn. After moving forward, the vehicle makes a turn. Pick up the vehicle and place it in the new space, making the vehicular maneuvers only once, as this repositioning was the vehicle's only movement in the new space. So yeah, it's pretty simple. There's an optional rule for wide turns. But yeah, you're just going to move forward and turn the vehicle, and that's fine. It does not seem to really differentiate between other vehicles, which means that we don't have to either. Which means it's all good. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But okay, that's vehicles, and that has taken me through the entire stream. But they're done. They're done. For vehicles, I'm just going to make a note here that says see. I'm going to say done the vehicle stat block. And okay, so that takes care of all artifacts. Artifacts are, in fact, now completely done. So what do we do next? Well, if I go back and look at the spells, we did spells, or we did creatures, we did artifacts, we've done instances and sorceries and enchantments, more or less. They're kind of dependent on the card. The only thing really left is going to be battles. And battles, I think, are going to be really interesting because these are the kind of things that will change the entire environment that we're playing in. I have some big ideas for how battles are going to work, and I think that we're going to get into that next time. So, if you want to see that, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, that way you get notified every time these videos are coming out. If you know somebody else who's also into either Pathfinder or Magic the Gathering, then share this video with them. They might just enjoy it. If you like what I'm doing here, though, if you like me, leave a like on the video. You can leave a comment down below. If you're going to leave a comment down below, though, might I suggest you go ahead and just join our Discord? In particular, if you want to play with us, if you want to play. Join the Discord, come to the Behind the Screen channel, let me know what you want to play, what your availability is, and as soon as I've got a group together, we'll begin. So, I look forward to seeing you there. I look forward to seeing you back here next week. And until then, take care.